7 rules from Jewish wisdom that turn poor men into millionaires. Have you ever wondered why Jewish people, despite making up only 0.2% of the world's population, hold 20% of Nobel Prizes and control a disproportionate amount of global wealth? Names like Einstein, Buffett's mentor Benjamin Graham, real estate mogul Sam Zell, and media mogul Michael Bloomberg didn't succeed by accident. They followed ancient principles that have been quietly passed down through generations. Here's what most people don't realize. Jewish wealth building isn't about getting lucky or having secret connections. It's about following time-tested rules that anyone can apply, regardless of background or current financial situation. These principles have survived thousands of years of persecution, exile, and economic upheaval because they work. But here's the problem. While these wealth principles are hiding in plain sight, 95% of Americans have never learned them. They're too busy chasing get-rich-quick schemes, buying lottery tickets, or following financial advice designed to keep them exactly where they are. I spent 3 years studying successful Jewish entrepreneurs and discovered that they all follow the same 7 fundamental rules. These aren't just business tactics. They're life philosophies that reshape how you think about money, work, and building generational wealth. Today, I'm going to share these 7 rules that have created more millionaires per capita than any other system in human history. Rule number 7 will completely change how you view your relationship with money. It's a secret that separates those who build lasting wealth from those who stay financially stuck forever. If you're ready to learn how ancient wisdom can transform your modern financial life, comment wisdom below and let's dive into these life-changing principles. Let's start with the first rule that every Jewish child learns before they can even tie their shoes. Rule 1. Never spend tomorrow's money today. The biggest financial mistake I see Americans making is treating future earnings like money they already have. They buy cars with loans, furniture with credit cards, and houses they can't truly afford because they'll make more money later. This backwards thinking is exactly why 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, regardless of their income level. They're constantly borrowing from their future selves, creating a cycle of debt that gets harder to break each year. Jewish wisdom takes the opposite approach. Spend only yesterday's money. This means never making purchases based on money you hope to earn, expect to receive, or plan to make. If you don't already have the cash sitting in your account, you can't afford it. Period. This isn't about being cheap. It's about maintaining financial control and ensuring your decisions are based on reality, not optimism. This principle reminds me of Joseph's wisdom in ancient Egypt. When Pharaoh's dream revealed 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine, Joseph didn't spend the surplus during the good years. Instead, he stored 20% of all grain production, creating a massive reserve. When the famine hit, Egypt not only survived but became wealthy by selling grain to neighboring nations who had spent their abundance instead of saving it. Start implementing this rule immediately. Create a 30-day waiting period for any purchase over $200. During this time, the money must already be in your account and not earmarked for bills or necessities. You'll be shocked how many urgent purchases suddenly seem unnecessary when you have to wait. As Jim Rohn taught, it's not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. True wealth begins with the discipline to spend only what you already have. But having cash available isn't enough if you don't understand the second rule that determines whether that money makes you rich or keeps you poor. Rule 2. Money is a tool, not a trophy. The second major trap that keeps Americans financially stuck is treating money like a scorecard instead of a tool. They buy expensive cars, designer clothes, and oversized houses not because these things improve their lives, but because they want to signal success to others. This look-rich mentality is financial suicide. You end up spending your wealth to appear wealthy, leaving you broke behind a facade of success. Jewish culture approaches money completely differently. Wealth is seen as a responsibility and a tool for creating more opportunities, not something to flaunt. You'll often find Jewish millionaires driving modest cars, living in reasonable homes, and wearing simple clothes. They understand that every dollar spent on status symbols is a dollar that can't work to generate more wealth. The goal isn't to look rich, it's to become genuinely wealthy. This wisdom echoes the parable of the talents from ancient teachings. A master gave 3 servants different amounts of money before leaving on a journey. 2 servants invested their money and doubled it, while the third buried his talent in the ground to keep it safe. When the master returned, he praised those who had put the money to work and punished the one who had simply preserved it. The lesson is clear. Money is meant to be deployed strategically, not hoarded or wasted on appearances. Before making any purchase over $500, ask yourself, will this make me money, save me money, or genuinely improve my quality of life? If the answer is no to all 3, walk away. Focus on building net worth, not net appearance. Buy the reliable used car instead of the flashy new one, and invest the difference. Napoleon Hill observed, the starting point of all achievement is desire, but the sustaining force is understanding that wealth is not about what you own, but what you control. Real wealth gives you options and security, not admiration from strangers. However, even understanding money as a tool won't help you if you don't know the third rule about where wealth actually comes from. Rule 3, create value before seeking profit. The third mistake that keeps most Americans financially average is approaching work and business backwards. They focus on what can I get instead of what can I give. This leads to job hopping for slightly higher salaries, starting businesses based on personal interests rather than market needs, and constantly asking for raises without first increasing their value. This self-centered approach to wealth building explains why most people plateau financially in their 30s and never break through. Jewish wisdom flips this entirely. Focus obsessively on creating value for others, and wealth will naturally follow. Before asking what you can earn, ask what problems you can solve. Before starting a business, identify what people desperately need. Before requesting a promotion, become indispensable to your employer. This mindset shift transforms you from someone taking value from the market to someone creating value in the market. This principle is beautifully illustrated in the story of King Solomon, who became the wealthiest ruler in history. When God offered him anything he desired, Solomon didn't ask for riches, long life, or power over his enemies. Instead, he asked for wisdom to govern his people well and make just decisions. Because he prioritized serving others over serving himself, God granted him not only unprecedented wisdom, but also wealth and honor beyond measure. Solomon's temples and palaces became legendary because he focused first on being valuable to his kingdom. Start implementing this today by conducting a value audit of your current role. List 10 specific ways you could solve problems, save money, or generate revenue for your employer. Then, systematically implement these improvements over the next 90 days. If you're self-employed, survey your customers to discover their biggest frustrations and build solutions around those needs. Tony Robbins teaches, the secret to wealth is simple. Find a way to do more for others than anyone else does. Become more valuable. Do more. Give more. Be more. Serve more. When you become the person who consistently delivers exceptional value, money naturally flows toward you. But creating value is only profitable if you understand a fourth rule about how to capture and multiply that value. Rule 4. Invest in learning before earning. The fourth critical error most Americans make is stopping their education the moment they get their first real job. They treat learning like a phase of life rather than a lifelong investment, believing that a college degree or trade certification is enough to carry them for 40 years. This backwards thinking explains why the average American's income peaks in their late 40s and then stagnates, while they watch younger, more knowledgeable workers surpass them in both skills and earnings. Jewish tradition has always prioritized continuous learning above immediate financial gain. Parents will sacrifice luxury purchases to pay for their children's education, and adults regularly invest significant portions of their income in books, courses, seminars, and mentorship. They understand that knowledge compounds faster than any other investment. What you learn today create opportunities that can generate income for decades. A single skill, insight, or connection gained through learning can transform your entire financial trajectory. This wisdom is embodied in the ancient story of Daniel in Babylon. When King Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, he could have chosen the strongest soldiers or the wealthiest citizens for his court. Instead, he specifically requested young men who were skilled in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge and understanding science. Daniel and his companions were chosen not for what they owned, but for what they knew. Their knowledge made them so valuable that they rose to the highest positions in a foreign empire, accumulating wealth and influence that lasted generations. Commit to investing at least 10% of your income in your own education, books, courses, conferences, coaching, or certifications in your field. Set aside 1 hour every morning before work to learn something new. Track your learning investments and measure how they translate into opportunities, promotions, or income increases over time. Jim Rohn famously said, "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job." The most successful people are perpetual students who understand that in a rapidly changing economy, your earning ability depends entirely on your learning ability. However, even continuous learning won't build lasting wealth if you violate the fifth rule about how to structure your income. Rule 5. Build multiple income rivers, not one income stream. The fifth wealth-killing mistake that traps most Americans is putting all their financial eggs in one basket. Their job. They climb the corporate ladder, negotiate for higher salaries, and assume that employment income alone will make them wealthy. This single-stream thinking creates massive vulnerability. One layoff, economic downturn, or industry disruption can destroy decades of financial progress in months. Even high earners making $150,000 plus annually often struggle financially because they built their entire lifestyle around one fragile income source. Jewish wealth building philosophy emphasizes diversification of income streams from day one. Rather than just working harder at one job, they systematically create multiple revenue sources: business ownership, rental properties, investment dividends, royalties, consulting fees, and partnership income. This approach provides both security and acceleration. If one stream slows down, others continue flowing, and when all streams are healthy, wealth accumulates exponentially faster than any single salary could provide. This principle is powerfully demonstrated in the parable of the wise merchant from ancient teachings. At the same time, other traders focus on perfecting their skill with one type of goods. The wise merchant diversified across multiple markets: spices from the east, textiles from the north, precious metals from mining regions, and agricultural products from fertile valleys. When political upheaval disrupted the spice trade, the wise merchant's other businesses sustained him. When drought affected agriculture, his other ventures thrived. This diversification didn't just protect his wealth, it multiplied it, as he could capitalize on opportunities in multiple markets simultaneously. Start building your second income stream this month, even if it only generates $200 to $500 initially. This could be freelancing your current skills, creating a digital product, starting a small service business, or investing in dividend-paying stocks. Focus on income sources that can grow without requiring more of your time: scalable businesses, investments, or intellectual property. Napoleon Hill observed, "The person who depends entirely on one source of income is in a precarious position." Multiple income sources create both security and opportunity for exponential growth. The goal isn't just financial safety, it's financial acceleration that's impossible with employment alone. But even multiple income streams can fail you if you don't understand the sixth rule about protecting and preserving your wealth. Are you starting to see why these principles have created so much wealth throughout history? We've just covered 5 rules that most Americans never learn. Spending only yesterday's money, treating money as a tool, not a trophy, creating value before seeking profit, investing in learning, and building multiple income streams. If these 5 rules have opened your eyes to a completely different approach to building wealth, one that's been proven over thousands of years, pause for a moment and comment wisdom below. This helps more people discover these life-changing principles. But if you're thinking this sounds great in theory, but I need to know exactly how to implement these in my real life, comment how, and I'll know to create more detailed, step-by-step content on putting these rules into practice. Every comment helps me understand what resonates most with you, because my goal isn't just to share knowledge, it's to actually help you transform your financial future using these ancient principles. Now, we're about to dive into the final 2 rules, and I have to warn you, Rule 6 will challenge everything you've been taught about money and security. while Rule 7 is a secret that separates those who build generational wealth from those who simply get by. These last two rules are where the real transformation happens. Rule 6. Preserve capital like your life depends on it. The sixth financial disaster most Americans create is treating their savings like a casino chip. They chase high-return investments, put money into risky startups, day trade stocks, or invest in trendy assets they don't understand. This gambling mentality stems from American culture's obsession with hitting it big rather than building steadily. The result? People lose their entire nest eggs during market crashes, failed business ventures, or get-rich-quick schemes, forcing them to start over financially in their 50s and 60s. Jewish wealth philosophy prioritizes capital preservation above all else. The first rule is never to lose money, and the second rule is never to forget the first rule. This doesn't mean avoiding all risk. It means taking calculated risks only with money you can afford to lose, while keeping your core wealth in secure, proven investments. Jewish families often keep 60 to 70% of their wealth in conservative investments like bonds, real estate, or blue-chip dividend stocks, using only the remaining 30 to 40% for higher risk, higher reward opportunities. This wisdom is beautifully illustrated in the biblical account of the 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph didn't invest Egypt's grain surplus in risky trading ventures or experimental farming techniques. Instead, he stored it safely in granaries throughout the kingdom. When the inevitable famine came, Egypt not only survived but became the wealthiest nation in the region by selling grain to countries that had gambled their surpluses away. Joseph understood that preserved wealth beats lost wealth every single time. Implement the core satellite strategy immediately. Put 70% of your investments in boring, stable assets, index funds, bonds, dividend stocks, and use only 30% for aggressive growth investments. Never risk money you need for living expenses on speculative investments, no matter how guaranteed they seem. Warren Buffett, who learned from Jewish mentor Benjamin Graham, teaches, Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. Wealth preservation isn't about being timid. It's about being mathematically smart about compound growth. However, even perfect capital preservation won't create generational wealth without the seventh and most powerful rule, the one that explains why Jewish families stay wealthy for centuries, while others lose everything within 2 generations. Rule 7. Think in generations, not years. The seventh and most transformative rule reveals why Jewish families maintain wealth for centuries, while 90% of wealthy American families lose everything within 3 generations. The critical difference isn't intelligence, luck, or secret knowledge. It's time horizon. Most Americans think about money in terms of months or years. Paying this month's bills, saving for next year's vacation, or planning for retirement in 30 years. This short-term thinking creates short-term wealth that rarely survives beyond the person who created it. Jewish wealth philosophy operates on a completely different timescale. They think in generations. Every financial decision is evaluated not just on its immediate impact, but on how it will affect their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. They build businesses designed to last centuries, make investments that compound across decades, and most importantly, they systematically teach wealth principles to every generation, so the knowledge never dies with them. This generational thinking is exemplified in the story of Abraham, who was promised that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Abraham didn't just accumulate wealth for himself. He established systems, principles, and relationships that would benefit his lineage for thousands of years. He understood that true wealth isn't what you can spend in your lifetime, but what continues growing long after you're gone. Start implementing generational thinking today. Teach your children the first 6 rules we've discussed, involve them in family financial decisions, and structure your investments to benefit multiple generations. Create a family mission statement about wealth, establish education funds for children not yet born, and build businesses or investment portfolios designed to last decades, not years. Tony Robbins reminds us, the quality of your life is the quality of your relationships, and the quality of your relationships with future generations determines the legacy you leave. When you start thinking beyond your own lifetime, every financial decision becomes more meaningful and more powerful. The difference between those who build temporary wealth and those who create generational prosperity isn't talent or opportunity. It's the willingness to plant trees whose shade they'll never enjoy. That's the ultimate secret of Jewish wealth and wisdom. Now you understand the 7 rules that have created more millionaires per capita than any other system in human history. These aren't just financial strategies. They're a complete mindset shift from the instant gratification, consumption-focused culture that keeps most Americans financially trapped. From spending only yesterday's money to thinking in generations, these principles have survived thousands of years because they work. Don't feel overwhelmed by implementing all 7 rules at once. Start with 1 rule this week. Create that 30-day waiting period for purchases over $200, or begin building your second income stream with just 1 hour per day. Small changes based on ancient wisdom create massive results over time. If these 7 rules have shifted your perspective on building real wealth, the kind that lasts for generations, not just years, comment wisdom below. And please share this with someone who needs to hear these principles. You might be the person who breaks their family's cycle of financial struggle. Would you like me to create a detailed video on how to start your second income stream in 30 days? Or the exact investment strategy for each rule? Let me know in the comments what would help you most. Remember, these principles have survived empires rising and falling, economic crashes, and social upheavals because they're based on human nature and mathematical reality, not temporary market conditions. When you align your financial decisions with wisdom that's been tested across millennia, you're not just building wealth. You're joining a tradition prosperity that can transform your family's future forever. Your financial legacy starts with your next decision. Choose wisely,